Okay, there we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name's Amy Lang, and I am super honored to be with you here tonight or today or whenever you're watching, if you're watching the recording. First of all, I just want to say thanks to Caroline for organizing me coming. We were all set to, I think we were going to go live, right? Like me, human being in front of you, instead of like this, but then you all know what happened. You all know what happened. So if you haven't already, it'd be great if you just popped in the chat, or if you haven't already talked to us, and just let me know how old your kids are and what their genders are, and that will kind of help me direct our conversation. And I'm going to make some reorganizing here so I can have a better time. I have to move this thing. Just a second. All righty. Cool. So let's get going. I know you all have had a long day, and I'm hoping you're going to be open to learning some stuff that will help you help your kids. But before we get rolling, one of the things we're doing today is that this is going to be a virtual fundraiser, and I am so happy and honored to be here. I can't remember how many times I've come to speak in your community in Portland, and I really am excited to support your school. Your PTA has invested time in this right now, getting it organized and getting me here. And so what we're going to do is you're going to learn from me, and then at the end I'm going to talk a little bit about my solution center, and that's the opportunity for the fundraising. So we'll do that at the end. I have a special offer for you, so you get some extra special goodies, and I think that is it. Okay, so let's do this thing. Oh, goodness. There we go. So before we get rolling, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I know some of you probably seen me speak before. That's me, obviously, and my partner and spouse, Carrie, and our son, Milo. And Milo is now 19, and he was 5 when I started Birds and Bees and Kids, and he was pretty much mortified by my work for his entire, elementary, middle school, nudging into high school years, which of course makes a ton of sense. And I got started doing this because I'd been a sexual health educator for over 16 years. Doing sexual health education was my hobby. I talked to pretty much anyone you can think of: pregnant 14-year-old girls, 65-year-old women restarting their sex lives, and I totally loved it. And I had assumed that I was going to be great at the sex talks when I had a kid. I was not great. I realized that I would really rather talk to a 14-year-old girl about her pregnancy than my 4-year-old boy about his penis. So I realized I needed to get my poop in a group. So I started doing some research. And then as I was figuring out like the best age and how to start the conversations and what to say and all that, I realized that I had an opportunity to combine my 2 favorite things: talking about sex, and I also have a master's degree in adult education. And so doing adult education. So I combined those 2 things. That was many moons ago, 14, I think. And this is definitely what I was put on the planet to do. I believe that sexuality is a wonderful part of life, and that our kids have the right to know that, and to know how to be a healthy sexual person, have healthy relationships, and to really rock this important and fundamental part of life. So that is my tale. I use notes because if I don't, we'll be here until midnight, which might be good and also might be not so good. So a couple other things. I just want to acknowledge that I am a white cisgender woman. I'm American, I'm liberal, I'm secular, I'm educated, and all of that is going to show up in one way or another while I'm teaching. And I believe that my job is to be aware of those biases and my values and how that shows up in my work, and to also teach you research and evidence-based information that's going to help you help your kids. Ultimately, you are the best person to sex educate them and relationship educate them, because you will share your values with your kids, and your values are really fundamental to helping them have a really a good stepping off point for understanding this big crazy world, right, of sexuality and relationships. So another thing, I use kind of a quirky teaching style. So as quirky as it's going to get with us tonight is that we're going to have breathing breaks. Because this is stressful and our world's stressful. And when we take that moment to pause and take a breath and exhale, it actually soothes your neurological system. And then more importantly, well, that's important. It also brings that thinky part of your brain back online. So we'll be breathing as we go along. And let me think. So if you're watching the recording, please breathe along. It will help you. I promise. I promise. So let's talk about what we're going to do. So we're going to talk about like what's going on kind of in general around the internet and kind of this intersection between sexuality and being safer online. We're going to go through some sex talks basics. I'm going to give you some really simple things to do that you can do like tomorrow and get started helping your kids be safer online. And then we'll talk about the fundraiser part, and then we'll do a formal like open Q&A. But please feel free to pop any questions you have into the chat. Caroline's going to be keeping an eye on that. We'll pause and take questions as we go along, because I really do want you to learn as much as you can in the next hour and 15-ish. Hour and 15-ish. All right, so let's see what's next. Oh, look, it's time to breathe. I have slides of nature. They're lovely. So let's take a breath. Here we go. One more time. Thank you. So let's talk about something. So let's start here. Just take a moment, and I just want you to think about this. Would you let your 3-year-old preschooler wander around the grocery store on their own? I'm thinking no. Would you let your 6th grader take the city bus downtown by themselves so they could just wander around? I'm guessing probably not. Would you let your 15-year-old hop on a plane and go to Paris and just hang around in Paris by themselves? No, that's a no, like times 2, like 1, yeah, no. And then the other thing is like children don't go to Paris without their parents. Like that is just not fair. So sorry, I think I'm funny. So the reason I'm talking about this in this way is because we need to think about the internet in a different way. Think about the words we use when we describe the internet. We say we go online. We say it's the World Wide Web. And so one of the first things you can do to help yourself kind of get more on board with this whole thing we're going to be talking about is to think about the internet this way. It's a place. The internet is a place. It's a place we go. It's a place our kids go. It's a place everyone goes these days. And we need to teach our kids to be in this place that is the internet the same way we do when we teach them, how to be in the grocery store, how to wander around the grocery store by themselves, what it takes to be taking the city bus downtown. Like we need to give them the same kind of tools or similar tools. We need to teach them with the same kind of caution and concern, and like they have to learn how to do those things. They don't just jump onto the bus, right, when they're like without any conversation. So the internet is the same thing. And so we need to really think about it and reframe our thinking in terms of it's a place, right? It's, again, like we go online. We go online. So that's the first thing. The next thing is this. My real concern, because I'm a sex educator, is about one of the places they can go online, which is into pornography. So porn exposure is a huge concern for kids and for families and for grown-ups, honest adults, some of us. So really, for me, helping you understand how to protect your kids from pornography and how to handle it, that's actually primarily what we're going to be talking about tonight, because I want you to understand that this is a real thing. It's a real risk to your kids. When we were kids, we had to work at it. Audrey Shapiro's dad had penthouses underneath his mattress. So that's where I got to see some porn. From lots of us, it was magazines, right? Or like trying to get through the blurry lines of the HBO back in the day. So I'm 53. So some of you probably had more access. So we had to work to get it. And even if we had to like sneak around and get DVDs or tapes or whatever, it still took some work. So now our kids don't have to work at all. No child escapes childhood makes it to adulthood without being exposed. It is no longer, I used to be able to say, oh yeah, just be careful, blah, blah, blah. It's just a fact of life. It sucks. The good news is that most kids, when they see it, they are not interested. Like, they are grossed out and they don't want to think about it. Some kids get hooked into it. And so ideally what you do is you help your kids understand what they're seeing and give them some context for it. And that can also help protect them. So yeah, sorry, porn. And just to give you an example of how easy it is to access, I had a couple come into my office for a consultation because their 7-year-old daughter had Googled horses. Sorry, who was saying their kids Googling? Sorry, take a deep breath. She'd Googled horses and she made her way to porn. And so the couple was there just to make sure that they were handling it well and just to confirm like that what they were doing and get some advice from me in terms of like how to talk to her a bit more about what she'd seen. So we had a lovely conversation. They hit the road. I was like, immediately, I'm like, how the hell do you get from horses to porn? So I Googled, you don't do this unless you feel like it, but I Googled horses, I went to images and I scrolled down. And if you have never seen a horse with an erect penis, you cannot unsee things. So there's a horse with an erect penis. I clicked on that image. And then I think within one more click, I was watching video porn. So it was that quick. It was completely innocent. She was just Googling horses. So the takeaway is that it just is going to happen. It's not going to be intentional. Of course, kids are going to Google boobs, then they're going to see some boobs. They're going to Google slang and they're going to see that stuff. And so we need to be prepared for that, because the thing that hasn't changed with kids and sexuality and this stuff is that they're curious. We've always all been curious about it. That curiosity has not gone away. We just have this wonderful place we can go where we can get way more information than we ever need, and they can get way more information than they ever need about this stuff, which it's not healthy, it's not helpful to them, and it can be really scary and icky. So hi, nature. Let's take a breath, shall we? So the next thing I'd like you to do, and Caroline, I forgot, you have a little work to do. So the next thing I'd like you to do is we're gonna just make a couple of lists. And the first list is this. I'd like you to, if you're willing, to just pop into the chat. What are some of the devices your kids can use to get online? And I'm gonna take, I'm actually gonna track it and make tick marks. So what are some of the devices your kids can use to get online? So like, obviously, like I'm on a laptop, so we'll say laptop. What are the other devices? And you can pop them in the chat if you don't mind. And then Caroline, will you read them? You're muted. You're muted.
So we have school Chromebooks, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, iPad, Kindle, phone, Alexa, Dad's Switch, Dad's phone. Looks like, yeah, Xbox.
Yeah.
Parents' phones.
Watch.
Well,
there. You can get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, from a watch.
It would be, I think there's a lot of Xbox and Chromebooks.
Yeah.
You know, I think mostly prevalently, you know, it's the school Chromebook. Roku, question mark?
Yeah. I don't think so. Oh, maybe. Yeah, you can.
All of the
like on the TV, right? You can. It's very clunky.
Whatever, you know.
Yeah. So I just made tick marks. We're around like a dozen different devices. And that's not counting like the sibling's phone, the mom's phone, the dad's phone. That's just like straight up devices. Okay, so we've got 12. Okay, so that's a lot.
YouTube. YouTube was mentioned.
Yeah. So let's. It's
also on the school Chromebooks too.
Great. Sorry. Okay, so here's the next thing. Where can they get online? So obviously they can get online at home and pretend like they can go in the world. So where else can they get online?
Coffee shops, library, school, home, pretty much staying at home. So
If you can, if your children in the
Other friends' homes.
before, remember before, did anybody say friends' houses,
Uh-huh.
grandparents?
Friends' houses. Pokemon Go on the phone.
Yep.
Grandparents' houses. Yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
coming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. On the bus?
You can get on the bus. I was thinking about that too. Transport, right?
Yep. Yep. Transport. Anything missing?
Train, I don't know. Anywhere, like anywhere. Coffee shops,
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. You
Mhm,
win.
mhm,
Everywhere.
mhm.
Everywhere. So they have an average of 10, 12 devices that they can use to get online, and they can get online everywhere. So that is a lot of opportunity. Um, and I realize that not every kid has all the, like has literally 12, literally 12 devices, but your kid probably has, I'm guessing like an average of 3 maybe places or 4 devices they can get online with, including gaming and that kind of thing. So it's everywhere. And this is a problem because like with our gal who Googled horses, they're seeing stuff that's not healthy. It's not safe for them. And it's not just porn. It's other stuff. Like you can Google all kinds of nasty stuff and fall down a rabbit hole. Like we've all rabbit holed, but our brains are like muddled up and old. We don't have a fresh perspective on the world. So where our kids can go can be maybe a little more creative than where we might go, and not in a good way, So let's have a breathe. Here we go. So remember that this talk is called How the Talk Can Keep Your Kids Safer Online. So we're going to talk about the talk for just a minute. So we're going to look at this lovely bee and feel like breathing. So what we know is that if kids know about sexuality, if they have open communication with their parents, if they're sex educated, if they if they can have conversations with you as their parent, if they see you as their go-to resource, they're safer. They're less likely to go look for stuff online because their curiosity is being satisfied in a safe way. They're going to be more likely to tell you if they see something yucky or uncomfortable online because you've established that openness of communication around this kind of stuff. If they see that we're comfortable or pretending to be comfortable with these conversations, they feel better and they do better. So having sex talks is protective. And let's talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that I believe is that an informed child is an empowered child, and an empowered child is a safer child. So when your child knows like sex is for later in life, it feels really great, it's not for kids. If they know that, if they know that they can come to you with questions, if they're puffed up with this knowledge, when they're on the playground and they have a conversation with a friend, and I've got a good story coming up about that, they're going to be less, they're going to be able to say in their heads or sometimes out loud in their mouths, which is one of the risks you run, like, hey, that's not right, or that's weird, or that's not true, and then be more likely to come back to you. So we want your kiddo, frankly, to be the smartest kid on the playground when it comes to the sexuality conversations and the sexuality information, because they do better. Those kids do better. They feel better. They make better decisions in the long run. So an informed child is an empowered child. And same with you. An informed parent is an empowered parent. So, that's why I work with parents, and I swear too much for children. So one of the things that happens, and this is pretty similar for all of us, is that, kids talk. They share rumors on the playground. They talk about different stuff. Most kids don't know like the practical realities of sexuality, starting from baby making, going through all the way through all the stuff. And so they talk to each other. We, as you may recall yourself, being a young person, like our peers had a lot of power over us in terms of where we got information about all kinds of things, but definitely sex. So that rumor mill is still there. By the time your kids are in like, I think like 9th, 10th grade, your influence over their sexual decision making and their sexual information is really, really, it's still high. It's high, but their peers take over. And you all may remember that yourselves, right? Your parents were so much only so influential, and then later on, your peers were where everything was happening. So the other piece of this is too, that when you're open with them and you're talking with them, you establish yourself as a safe person for them. So if something goes sideways, they're going to be way more likely to talk to you because you've been talking openly about this and keeping your cool when you're having these conversations. And, you know, these days there's going to be peer-to-peer communication, but it's really informed by the stuff they see online. So those rumors are, you know, there's tons of stuff that goes around now on even, you know, like in elementary school, because of how the world is and how much information kids have. So some of the things that you should be talking with them about, and some of the things they're learning about, are like gender, bodies, sexual orientation, pleasure, consent. Like these are all the things they're getting some information about. And this is where you need to press hard and talk about this stuff openly. And we'll talk a little bit about books in just a minute, because they are your best friend when it comes to sex talking. You need to talk about healthy relationships, because the sooner you get in the door with this information, again, it empowers them. And so when they get this weird information that they're going to get, they're going to feel better, they're going to do better. And again, they're going to be more likely to talk to you if you've been really open with them. So one of the things I love to do when I work with parents, dun, 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 and I think this is really important when we're learning about talking with kids about sexuality, is to take a minute and to think about how you got your information about the birds and bees. And this is actually homework. And this is really fun homework. So if you're parenting with someone, or you have a really good friend, have a conversation about, like, how did you learn about sex? Where did you get your information? What messages did you get about sexuality? So if a couple of you are willing, it'd be fun to hear your story, and you can just throw it in the chat. And while that's going on, I'll just tell you what happened for me, which is that my parents gave us books. So I knew about how babies were made from the time I was about 5. And then we got another book and another book and another book, well, another book and another book. And then when I was 18, my mom gave me Our Bodies, Ourselves for my 18th birthday, which is like the feminist women's healthcare Bible. And so yay, I had lots of book learning, but I never, ever had conversation with my mom or my dad about this part of life. And I relied heavily on my best friends, whose parents were much better, mostly better, different, but better than mine were. So yeah, so my message was, don't talk about it. It's science, you need to know about it, but don't talk about it. So that's my little tale. So I'm just curious if there's a couple, Caroline, of people's stories that they shared. If you want to read them, that would be great. And remember, you're muted.
I'm trying to remember that. Yeah, so we have a couple. One is a cardboard box with menstrual supplies and books arrived on my bed. No discussion. Otherwise, it was sex ed at school starting in 4th grade. As we talked about, that's more about puberty than anything else.
Yeah.
Never got the talk. Or one person remembers good touch, bad touch videos in grade school, and little context with which to understand it. My mother was a nurse. She and my dad sat my twin and I down to chat it over. Mom was mortified, dad always open. Mom did great with puberty talk, the science and the functionality of it.
Yeah.
5th grade at Lewis.
Really?
Yep, one parent, 1st grade at Lewis. Puberty talk starting in 4th grade. School health class, 5th and 6th grades. Friends, parents had a book written by Stan and Jan Berenstain. And intended for parents, but found it, and it was not very informative, but fun.
That's great. Yeah, so you can hear we're all kind of in this same boat, right? Like, our parents did not do what they should have done for us. So your homework is to have this conversation and really think and talk about it. And, there are things that worked, right? Like I'm a super fan of books, right? Like I am a fan of that. So like that's something to keep. I like sex ed at school is great. It's not always great, but it's good to have it because it's just another, usually pretty trustworthy. I mean, especially in Portland and in public school, you're going to get trustworthy information. That's good. I'm a fan of that. So figure out what worked for you, do that, and what didn't work for you, and don't do that. Because if it didn't serve you, it's definitely not going to serve your kids. Like it is a brave new world out there. We have to do this really, really differently. Really, really differently. All right. Thank you for sharing. Let's have some nature, shall we? Feel free to take a breath. Remember, you're going to learn more. And I know it's been a long day. All right. So let's talk about when the ideal time is to start the conversation. And I'm going to keep this pretty brief. So when I was trying to figure out for myself, like how and when should we start the conversation, what should that look like? I was getting lots of conflicting information, and I couldn't figure out, like, I didn't see a, like, this is it, like, moment. And then I was thinking, all right, so, I know who's got the lowest teen pregnancy rate in the developed world, because that's probably a pretty good like marker indicator. And so that's the Netherlands. And I was like, all right, what are they doing? So 3 major things. So first of all, they have socialized medicine. So kids, teenagers don't have to think twice about where they're going to get their birth control, where they're going to get their STD and HIV testing. It's just available. They don't have to think about it. They have a very open culture about sexuality. They see it as a wonderful, fun, cool, interesting, natural, healthy part of life. That is pretty much the opposite of folks who are raised in this culture and other cultures, American culture. We don't see it that way. We're not taught about it that way. And then the last thing is that they have comprehensive sexuality education starting in kindergarten all the way through high school. So there's no not knowing. There's no not knowing. And unfortunately, girls, if they get pregnant there, their pregnancy rate is like 10 out of 1,000. Sometimes those girls are shamed because their peers are like, how the hell did that happen? But as we all know, pregnancy happens, right? So this is why I came up with this number, which is 5. So ideally your kids know by the time they're about 5 that the usual way babies are made is the penis goes in the vagina, blah, 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 blah. The reason it's 5 is because if you take a minute and think about 5-year-olds and 5-year-old life, it's actually kind of an ideal time. 5-year-olds are super curious. They oftentimes are asking lots of questions. They don't have any judgments or assumptions about sexuality. They don't know there is anything yucky, bad, embarrassing, shameful. They also don't know that there's anything fabulous, wonderful, pleasurable about sex, right? They're in this like a blank slate, right? They're starting elementary school usually, and so they're going to be hanging out with kids that have a lot more information than they do, and kids, of course, talk to each other. It's easier on you because your 5-year-old is not going to notice your sweaty upper lip and your 2 glasses of wine while you're reading a book with them. Your 10-year-old, they're going to notice. They're going to notice. So starting earlier makes it easier for you to have these conversations. You get to practice. They get used to hearing it. It becomes a normal part of your family life. And I know that some of you are thinking, oh crap, my kid is 9, 10, 7, 11, 15, you've blown it. And you have not blown it. You just have more to cover in a shorter amount of time. So if you have a kid that's like 8 and under, I'll talk about books in just a minute, but just go ahead and get a book and say, hey, you know what? You're old enough. Let's start talking about this. And you go for it. If your kids are 8, 9 and older, then you need to apologize and say, I'm sorry, we should have started talking about this sooner. I didn't think you were ready. I didn't think I was ready, but now I know you are. We're going to get a book and talk about it. You don't do anything. You don't read the book at that moment. You come back later and you say, here's the book. And then you read the book together if they'll do that, or you have them read it and you just start the conversations. You're not serving them and you're not serving yourself by not talking to them. And so one of the other nice things, I forgot about this, about 5-year-olds is that the way they consume information is if you say, this is how butter's made and this is how baby's made, it's the same to them. It's the same. Just science, just fact. There's nothing big going on. We know that with the baby making thing, there's more to it. Just a little bit, just a little bit. So again, you know, if you're a little later to the game, don't beat yourself up. Lots of times, this is the first time people have heard this. Everybody's in the same boat, especially in the US, like because we have this idea that the time to start the conversations is in like 4th or 5th grade. And that's too late, especially now. It's too late. And again, don't beat yourself up. Ideally, everybody has this conversation when their kids are 5, but that's not going to happen. So get in there as soon as you can. And then by the time they are starting, by the time they're starting middle school, they should know the basics of everything. 2 words, basics. So that does not mean you go into explaining exactly how, I'm trying not to be too graphic. I'm sorry, I can't. So I'm not going to be graphic. You don't have to give them 4-part glowing harmony about all the different things related to sexuality. They just need to understand, like they need to know what, you know, penis and vagina sex is. They need to know about oral sex, anal sex. They need to know about pleasure, orgasms, consent. They need to know about masturbation. They need to know about healthy relationships, but not like, you're not the Wikipedia of sexuality. You're more like a, Reader's Digest version, and even lighter than that. So you just want to make sure they have some bits of information about just about everything related to sexuality, because when they get to middle school, all bets are off. Kids talk about everything. They have way more freedom in terms of access to the internet. So they are, you know, looking at all kinds of stuff like and talking about it. And so if your child already knows about this stuff, they're going to be way more likely, if a kid shows them porn, to say, you know, no thanks, you know, no thank you, don't want to look at that. Sex is for enough, you know, that's not for kids, whatever. And they're going to be more empowered. They're going to be more likely to tell you if they see something, and they're going to feel better. They're going to feel better. And when we feel better, we do better. All right, now that you're all traumatized, I'll drink some water. So I am a super fan of books. These are my favorite books. The first one, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. This is a book, I call this one Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Senior. There's also Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior. Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Senior is for kids that are about 9 and older. And it is a book about pornography. It's for kids. It talks about what it is, what to do when they see it. It talks about the impact on culture, women, people, that kind of thing. I am not a super duper fan of it. It has some really good content. It just is a little, our values, the people that do it, our values don't align. So, but there's nothing else out there. So I'm talking with some fellow sexuality educators about, we need to have another resource for this. So it's a really good source to help you help your kids understand what it is. And then there's stuff in there that I don't agree with, but it's not going to hurt your kid, and it's better than nothing. It's Not the Stork is a book that's about bodies, baby making, families, safe touch, that kind of thing. It's for kids who are probably like 3 to 5-ish, 6-ish. It's So Amazing is my favorite book. That's for kids if you have a really curious 5-year-old, that's where I would start. It's great for kids from age 5 to about 10 or 11. It covers everything, and the books are really sex positive. They're really fun. And then the last one, It's Perfectly Normal. Your kiddos should have that before, like the summer before 6th grade. It covers everything. If you are rusty, it is definitely a book to read, because it talks about abortion in relative detail, birth control. It talks about consent and healthy relationships, gender, like all the things in a really good amount of detail. So these are my go-to books, and I will be you'll get an email from us with links to the books and some other resources as well. So you don't need to go shopping right now. You can stay here with me for a little bit longer. So let me see if there's anything else. And before we get into the book. So there is a direct line between your openness, you're willing to talk about this, their level of information and education, and their ability to make sense of what they're going to end up being exposed to. And again, with this openness, what you're doing is you're establishing that you're the go-to person, and you're establishing that you can handle this stuff. So if something does go sideways, you can take it, you can handle it. All right, so I'm going to pause because I'm thinking there might be some questions. So go ahead, if you've got them, pop them in the chat. And my lovely chat assistant, my chat bot, is that not right?
I don't have any questions popping up yet.
Okay, that is okie dokie. I'm just checking the time. Let's see if there's anything I missed. I think that is it on that. Okay, so
one question.
Yes,
just
please.
typing it away. I gave the talk at 7, and then within 2 weeks, I heard my kid was telling someone, "You make a pregnancy through kissing." Miscommunication, misunderstanding, misinterpretation. What do you do with that?
Yeah, so when you find out that so the thing about young kids is that they're going to have to hear it more than once. Like your 10-year-old will be like, got it, right? They're going to be able to understand the information more readily. So you're going to need to have the conversation more than once. So the minute you hear something like that, you can just say, oh, hey, just wanted to clarify that, kissing can be part of people making love, part of people having sex. It's not the way that people make a baby, for example, because remember the penis, vagina, blah, 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 blah. And then, so kind of get them straightened out, look at the book again, make sure the books are available. But then the other thing is that when, sometimes parents worry about this, if their kid's going to be the town crier, right? So that kiddo was kind of the town crier who's spreading misleading information. But if you're worried about that, regardless, what you need to say to your kids is something like, hey, you know what? We're super open in our family. We're happy to talk about this with you, but other people feel uncomfortable. So the rule is, it's not your job. So those two things, the rule is, it's not your job to talk with other kids about that. It's their parents' job. And you say that, and then you do this, and then they're going to do what they're going to do, because you need to stand and you're like, I did everything I could. Like, of course I'm going to talk to my kid about sex, and I'm doing everything I can to keep them from, sharing the good news, but they may tell. And if they do, in my universe, it's like, so what? If the parents are freaking out, just say, you know what, in our family, we believe it's really important for our kids to have this information from us from an early age, so they're not getting it from other sources. I can be totally awful. So just like gently say, like, we didn't want this to happen, so here we are, sorry. We'll remind them. Not their job to be the sex educator. So it's frequent conversations. It's not one and done. One of my colleagues says it's 201 minute conversations. It's more like 400 2-minute conversations, but you get the gist. So
there's another question kind of related. One person asks, do I need to tell my son's friends' parents that I'm going to talk to my kiddo? And I think you've kind of answered that in the way.
Yeah. Give them a heads up. Say, hey, we're starting the conversation. Just want to let you know, this is why we're doing it. This is what we're going to be doing. And they're going to be like, oh, too young. And then you can just point them my way, or I just gave you a whole lot of reasons why. So just trot that out. And you know what, parents, we're all super judgy. So they're going to maybe think that, you're crazy or whatever. Fine. That's on them. Like your kid will be like my goal for Milo was that he be the smartest kid on the playground when it came to this stuff. Like I wanted him to be the person that his friends came to if they had questions, because I knew he'd be accurate. Like I wanted that for him, because I wanted him to be the guy. Like I wanted him to have so much information. And I know that's not for everyone, but if you think about it, like in that respect, like, wouldn't you rather be the one, like as a kid, wouldn't you have rather been the one that was in the know? I would have.
Definitely.
I would have.
So the next question is,
Go ahead.
Is it better for dad to be the one to talk to son? How much should come from mom? Is it a gender thing?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so all we need is just one trustworthy adult. So, it's boys prefer to talk to their dads about their hearts and their nuts. I'm sorry, that's not right. They prefer to talk to their dad about their nuts, like they want to talk to their dads about their bodies, and they prefer to talk to their moms about their hearts. But just because we know that, it doesn't mean that's what they get. So yeah, I mean, if you're parenting with someone else, I'm all about divide and conquer and be like, okay, what are you comfortable talking about? What am I comfortable talking about? How are we going to do this? Who's going to tackle what? And then go for it. And don't worry about the gender thing. All you need to do is address it. Because if you're in a 2-mom family and you're raising boys, or you're a single mom and you've got a boy, you just say, I ain't got your parts, but we'll figure it out. Like, just acknowledge that. So don't worry about the gender thing. And there was a study a while ago that showed that dads who were open and talking with their daughters about sexuality and relationships, those girls felt better about their future relationships, had fewer partners, and overall just had a better sexual lives and relational health. So I think it was debunked, but it just kind of makes like sense to me on an intuitive level, but that's not science. Anyway, take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt.
Let me just, I think there's one more. So one person says that they were nervous talking with their child at 5 because afraid of he might try to somehow experiment or share the information on the playground. And so they talked about everything but the mechanics, but
Okay.
this in the vagina. So
it's time. It's time. Just get it out of the way. It's 3 little words. And just remember to reiterate, like, it's not your job to talk to other kids about this. Like, you can talk to us. People are weird and uncomfortable, not us. And then cross your fingers, tell the friends, parents, like, hey, the cat's out of the bag. Just want to let you know, we've told him not to talk to other. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Look,
yeah,
weird, fake nature. Maybe that's real. I don't think so. Okay, ready for the online stuff? So here's the first thing. You need to say this to your kids. I'm sorry. And you may even need to say, we made a mistake. We haven't been talking with you about how to be safe online. And it's time for us to start doing that. And we're going to make some changes. And the reason you're apologizing is because they're probably not, the older they are, the less they're going to like what's coming. And you probably are a little bit sorry, because if you haven't been doing some of the things that I'm going to be talking about, your child's been at risk, and it's not their job to make sure they're safe online. That is your job. Just like it's not their job to make sure they wear a seatbelt in the car, that's your job. So this is the same kind of thing. And expect some pushback, especially from older kids, and just stand your ground. Because this is a health and safety issue. It's straight up health and safety issue. And they don't like it. So what? Welcome to life. Welcome to life. So here are some really easy things you can do. Just some simple prevention ideas. So the first thing is that you must have monitoring. You must use monitoring and parental controls. This is not optional, it is required. I'll send you some information about some good resources to use. So monitoring, and you may know this, lots of folks don't understand the difference between monitoring and parental controls. Monitoring tells you where your kids are going. So you can see the websites they're going to, you can see the apps they're downloading, you can see what they're up to. That's monitoring. Parental controls block things. So when your kids are little, you want things really, really tightly locked down so they can't really go anywhere that could get them into any kind of trouble. As they get older, you let out the leash and you back up the parental controls so that they can go look for more things. And I realize, like with school, it gets a little complicated, but it's better for your kid to say to you, like Milo was like, I am trying to research, I don't remember what, something, toenail fungus, and I can't get anywhere. Can you please go and unblock whatever? So I unblocked some stuff, and then when he was done, we blocked it up again. So parental controls start tight and they get let out. Monitoring happens all the time. Monitoring happens all the time. By the time they are in middle school, you can take off all the parental controls and they should be able to go anywhere. They should be able to free range anywhere, but you're still watching. And this is not spying. You tell them, we're using monitoring and parental controls to keep you safe online. There's some really yucky stuff out there, and we need to make sure that you're safe. So if you go someplace that we're worried about, we'll have a conversation about it. Simple. The next thing down is this refusal plan. So refusal plan is you help them figure out what they're going to do or say when somebody, if they're like online on their computer or on their phone on their own and they see pornography or anything really yucky, or if they're with a friend at somebody else's house and they see porn and there's someone shows them porn. So the refusal plan is something, it can be really simple. It's like, you tell them what pornography is. It's sexual, it's videos of naked people doing sexual things. It's not for kids. And it can be really scary and uncomfortable to see and can be really confusing. All right, so you gotta tell them what it is and then tell them what to do if they see it. So if they see something like that, they need to turn off the device, shut the laptop, turn it over, and then come find you or safe adult. And be really clear with them. You will not be in trouble. Say that. You will not be in trouble. We just want to make sure that you're okay and that, you know, you just want to make sure you're okay. And so that's a really simple refusal plan. You need to extrapolate that out to what would you do if you're at a friend's house? And then you give them some ideas about that. So for example, when Milo was 8 or 9, he was going over to his friend's house and we're in the car and I'm like, so what would you do if you're online and you and Ethan are online and you see something like naked people or something that was upsetting or scary? What would you do? And he said, tell his mom. And I said, great idea. What else could you do? And he said, I don't know, because they all say that. He said, I don't know. And I said, well, what do you think about walking away or saying, hey, why don't we do something else? Or, you know, you could even, if it's really uncomfortable, you could even say you don't feel good and you want to come home. And he's like, oh, okay. So we had a conversation about what he could do. When we give kids a refusal plan, it helps them to feel, again, more empowered and comfortable. So with older kids, one of my good friends, both of her daughters who are 4 years apart, first week of middle school, a boy showed each girl, 2 different boys, 4 years apart, porn on their phone. And these girls were sex educated and porn educated. They were both like, ugh, dude, what are you doing? I do not want to see that. And we're just really capable of being like, gross, leave me alone. And that's what you want. That's what you want. Sometimes it's really hard to be able to refuse to look at something. So another thing you can do too is make sure your kids have a couple of like go-to YouTube videos where they can just say, oh yeah, whatever, check this out and put that link in or forward them something or text them something to get out of the situation. So that's all part of having a refusal plan. Next thing is screen time rules. You need to have rules around when they can be on screens and what that looks like. I realize they're on screens constantly right now, which sucks. So you're going to need to figure out in your family, like, how is this going to work? Like maybe there is no screen until the minute school starts, like no screens at all until the minute school starts. And then when school's over, they have to take a half an hour break before they can get online and do gaming or whatever they're doing with their friends. And then all screens are off by 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And one of the nice things about Circle or Bark, the monitoring devices, is that you can set them up to shut down the interwebs so the kids can't get on online. So you need to figure out what the rules are. And I know you all are exhausted. I know this is a really trying time, but one of the places that you're having some stress is probably around the screen time. So within what's the whole, like, I feel like 1984, like within chaos there, with, you know, if you have order, you feel better. You feel better, your kids will feel better. Everybody feels out of control. So having new rules and then enforcing them and being clear about them and standing firm is going to make you feel better and they will feel better, even though they don't like it in the moment. The next thing is to turn it all off. Find some time in your week or even in your day where no one is in front of a screen at all. So maybe it's Sunday afternoon, no screens at all. And everybody, like no phones. We didn't remember before. I know some of you maybe can't remember. Remember before when you didn't have a screen in your pocket 24/7? We had swaths of time. We don't need our phones. We don't need any of that. So if you can set aside time where everybody's off, it will help you all feel better. And again, you want to set up this idea that we can control our time online. And then obviously for me, it's the sex talks. Super important, especially when it comes to porn exposure. Because when they know what they're seeing, when they know it's not safe or okay for kids to look at, they're going to be way more likely to stop looking at it. And again, it also reduces their curiosity if you have healthy places for them to go and learn about this. And I wish I could tell you that this was like the magic wand that'll just fix all this. It's not. But what we want is kids who are able to be resistant to pornography and have a good understanding of what healthy sexuality is. So that's where you come in with the sex talking. With the sex talking. Oh my goodness, I've talked a lot. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So that's the goal, right? Woo! All right, one more little tale from me. So I like this picture, so I had to figure out how to work it in. But when Milo was in 7th grade, he was allowed to free range on the internet. We didn't have any parental controls. We were monitoring, so we knew where he was going. And he was having an adolescent fit. And he's telling me how this is horrible and that sucks and this is bad. And then the last thing he said was, and I hate Custodio, which is what we were using at the time for monitoring. He said, I hate Custodio. And I said, oh yeah, why? And he said, because I can only go to like 3 or 5 websites because I know you're watching. And I said, yeah, that must be really frustrating. And he said, it is. And he went storming off. And I went running downstairs and found Carrie, my spouse, and was like, Carrie, Custodio is working. Because that's what we want, right? We want them to think, oh, where am I going, right? He was learning to flex that muscle of self-control. So that is my tale of chickens. So good. Isn't that a great picture? Sorry. All right, nature. Here we go. There we go. All righty. So we are rocketing to the startling conclusion here. So remember at the top, I talked a little bit about how this is a virtual fundraiser. So it is that time to get to the fundraiser part of it. And I want to talk to you about, I have a special offer for you. And here's the deal. So for every dollar that you spend, which there aren't very many dollars you're going to spend, you'll get 50% of the sales from my solution center. So I'm going to talk about it really quickly. And so you get to help yourself and help your school. And Caroline and I were just talking about the kind of unexpected expenses you're having in your PTA world. And so I'm really hopeful that we can help offset some of those costs because life has changed. Anyway, okay, so I have this Birds and Bees Solution Center, and this is something that parents have asked me for over the years. It's basically a one-stop shop for everything you need to have really open conversations with your kids about the birds and the bees. And Caroline, will you put the link into the chat so people can go take a peek at it while I'm talking? It's available night and day. It'll help you become really comfortable and confident quickly. If you're having a sex talk emergency, you can find, that's a thing. You can find the answer really easily and quickly. You'll be able to plan ahead so you'll know what's coming next. So if there's a topic that makes you particularly uncomfortable, you'll find the words, you'll know what to say, you'll know when to say it, you'll be ready to say it so you can plan for it. You'll also stop feeling clueless and awkward and embarrassed because you're going to have what you need. Remember, if you're informed, you're empowered. So this is a place for you to get empowered. And you'll feel kind of puffed up. I've found like over the years, because remember, Milo was 5 when I started this, and I found that the more I knew about what was coming, like by the time he was a teenager, I knew how to talk with teenagers when he was 7. But by the time he was a teenager, I felt really confident because I knew what to say and how to say it, and I was really ready for it. And, again, like the goal here is for you to become their go-to source for this information.
I'm sorry, Amy, I'm having technical difficulties, so I can't post your link right now.
Oh, weird. Here, let me see if I can do it.
About that.
Where's the chat? There it is. One moment, please.
Right,
Is HTTPS. Oh my God, tinyurl.com. Is that right?
Yeah, it was HTTPS tinyurl.com.
BB right in front of me. That's it. Oh,
yeah.
no, not tiny URLs.
Lewis.
That it? Okay, go. Will someone test that? And then
I jumped out of my chat, so I'm not really sure how to.
Oh, weird. Okay. Can somebody click on that? Someone do public service? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All righty, where are we here? All right, so I just want to give you a peek inside. So this is one of the things that pretty much every parent asks me for. They want to know what they need to know by when. So there is a video that covers exactly that. It explains what they need to know in detail, including how to avoid too much information. I give you some scripts, and then we talk about what they need to know from birth until 4, from 5 to 8, and then from 9 till about 12. And there's also a handout that details all of this. The next thing is that one of the really good companion to this conversation we're having right now is a video called Poison Porn, Your Kids in Porn. My colleague Joe Langford and I do this talk together, where we actually do a deeper dive into pornography, how it's impacting kids, more about how to have conversations with kids about it, what that should look like, and how to help your kids become more resilient when they're exposed. So that's one of my favorite things, actually, and he's kick-ass. He's one of my favorite humans. And then the other thing too is that I have a magic sex talks formula, which I created, that makes the conversations really quick and simple. I'm a big believer in dumbing it down. So it's a really simple way to talk about just about anything. And what else is in there? Oh yeah, so some other videos in there are raising respectful boys, girls and sexuality. There's a video on gender, kids with ADD, developmentally delayed kids. So there's a bunch of different, more specific topics, plus information just for you, 7 steps to make the talks rock. So the idea is that you'll have this, what it is you have a one-stop shop to get what you need so you can be a magical sex talking powerhouse. So here's the last thing. This is new. Because of the COVIDs, I felt like I needed to change things up a little bit. One of the first things that's going to go in most schools is sex ed. So that fifth grade sex ed class that you were probably kind of depending on is most likely not going to happen. So I pulled together some materials for sex ed at home. So there is a official school-like, it's actually a real school curriculum from Advocates for Youth. So you can look at what's normally taught at each grade level. And then I went in and I curated videos and books for kids. So talk a bit about what they need to know at, like between 2 to 5, and the books, I've read them all, the videos, I've watched them all. So they're all kid safe, kid friendly. And then for 6 to 9-year-olds, and then 10 to 13-year-olds. So you don't have to guess, they're age appropriate. Some of them are going to feel a little bit like, oh, that's a little too much. Trust me when I tell you it's not too much. It's not too much. It's better that they have a safe source of accurate information that might feel a little bit over the top to you than, seeing the porn, which is not accurate or safe. So I just want to tell you one more tale. I kind of referred to this earlier on. So a mom that has worked with me over the years emailed me, and she said, I'm feeling super proud, Amy. This is what happened. So she has a 10-year-old, or her boys were 10 and 8 at the time. And she picked him up after school and they came home and they ran upstairs and, to get rid of their backpacks and whatnot. And her 10-year-old, she said he was like down in a minute, which was weird. So she said, I'm like doing the dishes, and he comes up to me and he says, hey, Mom, I have a question. And she's like, yeah, what? And he says, what's a BJ? She's like, oh my God, channel Amy, channel Amy. And so she said, I took a breath and I just said, where'd you hear that? And he said, well, some guys at recess today on the playground, they were talking about it. He's like, what is it? Is it like a sex thing? And she said, yeah, it is. And then she went on, she said, I explained it to him. I talked to him about why people do it. I talked to him about it's not something he has to do. And so we had this nice little short conversation. And then she said, I was like, do you have any questions? And he said, nope, it's gross. See ya. And she said that if it had not been for me, that she would not have known how to handle that conversation, that she would have completely freaked out. And she said that knowing that it was okay for her to talk openly with him about that, it just helped her feel so much more comfortable and confident. And then, the other piece was that he trusted her. He knew it was a sex thing. He didn't know what it was, and he knew he could ask her. So, you need help. We all need help with these conversations, and everything that you need is here in the Solution Center. Okay, here, let's get to the fundraiser part. So usually it was $15 a month, which was like $180 a year. And so I've changed it to a one-time payment of $69. And if you use the code Lewis, you'll get 15% off, which makes it like $58 or something like that. And then we're splitting that. So you get half of that. So $30-ish. I'm not a mathy gal. So for every Solution Center that y'all purchase, then your school's going to get $30, and it can add up pretty quickly. And every little bit helps right now. And you need help, and your PTA needs help. So it's a win-win, and it's good forever. You can get in there whenever you want. You don't have to, it's standalone. But here's the good news. You get a copy of my book, and every specific topic webinar that I teach, and that I teach for pay, you automatically get for free. I send you an email ahead of time so you can register for free, and then it's automatically uploaded to the site, and then I let you know when it's there. So you can go and watch at your leisure. So that is the Solution Center. That is the fundraising part of our time together. So I'm just going to take a minute and see if anybody has questions about the Solution Center, or about, I don't want to be confusing about the fundraisery part of this, but about the, chance for your school to make a little do-re-mi. Any questions about that? Or, if you don't, feel free to ask them. And if you have sex questions, let's do it.
So I'm just reminding you, I can't see the chat. So if you...
What's going on?
I got bumped out, so I can't see anything.
That's so weird.
Find it again.
Oh, the code here. The code is Lewis. And then I'll put the, sorry, yes. There's the link again. I don't know why you're bopped out. That's really weird.
Yeah. But don't waste time on it.
What'd you say?
I said, but don't waste time on it.
I will. Okay. I'm just going to make you, weird. Okay. So let me know, what questions do you have? And if I think there's just a handful of us left, if you want to go ahead and just unmute yourself and ask, that's great.
This is Gwen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, thank you.
So we're in the process of filling in the account setup, and for the coupon code, we typed in Lewis. Just Lewis, correct?
Yeah. Is it not working?
With a capital L.
It doesn't, the case doesn't matter.
And it's saying it's an invalid coupon code.
That's weird. Ugh. Let's do this. when we send, we'll get an email probably tomorrow, and I will make sure the correct code is there. That's really weird because I checked it today.
Yeah, I'm working on a MacBook, and you know,
I'm
we
sure
were able
it's
to
me.
get this far to the screen where we enter the credit card number and the.
Okay, I'm sure it's me. So if you want to sit tight, I'll email it in the morning and fix it. That's really weird. I don't know why it's doing that.
Okay, yeah, we can wait. That's no
Okay,
worries.
thank you. Sorry. Oh well, technology. I'm a sex educator. I'm not a sex. Thanks, Gwen. Do you have a question? A sex question?
No, I don't have any particular questions at the moment, but I think that this resource bank of materials that you've put together are going to be really, really helpful for us.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. That's my goal. That's my goal. Okay,
I
Tina.
had a question. Yeah, I was just wondering if you have more than one kid, what do you think about like separating them or talking to them together, especially with certain topics?
Yeah. So general rule of thumb is that if they're like within 2 years age difference, just go ahead and talk to them together. But you know your kids, right? So one kid may be really reticent and shy and not into this. So you're going to want to talk to them separately. As they get older, they're going to want to have separate individual conversations. But pretty much anything, like pretty much all of it is on the table to talk about at the same time. But again, like, you know, they want to have separate conversations with you. So just trust your gut about when that's happening, but don't shy away from having conversations with everybody together. But the big deal is don't make an event of it. Like, it's not like it's Wednesday, it's hump day, we're going to talk about sex. Like, don't do that. I mean, you could to be funny, but don't make it a regular thing. They'll never speak to you again.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And I mean, my thinking too was like, as soon as we tell one kid, he's just going to tell his brother. So I'm like, it's probably better just to hear it from us all at once. So
Yes, definitely.
thank you.
Yeah,
this is really informative.
Hey, Jessica, did you have a question? Or that you unmuted? Maybe that's not your real name.
Yeah, I was just gonna share a question that was in the chat, but it's already been covered. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Thanks. Anything else in the chat? It's so weird about the chat being a mystery.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
This is Lee. Does your online resource provide resources for the monitoring and the parental controls pieces?
Yeah, I'm actually going to send you, it's not in there, it's on my website, but I will send you an email that'll have links to the monitoring and parental control stuff. So they're already on my website, so you can find that on the resources page. So there's 2 different ones, Circle and Bark, and they're both good. I mean, we don't use them because Milo's out of the house, but my friend Joe, who's really into this stuff, he loves Circle and is using it. It's great. Easy to install, easy to use. And then if you use my link from my site, you'll get $20 off. So again, you can just hang out and I'll get the resources out to you probably tomorrow.
Great. And those are the monitoring.
Monitoring.
Okay.
And I think they have a parental control aspect to them as well. So you can kind of do everything from there.
We just had a kind of a debacle with Circle, which I don't know if you've heard anybody else saying this, but we were using it because Joe mentioned it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working. So I kind of got a little bit frustrated. So I don't know if it's just a generation thing, like a first generation, second generation, but
I don't know. Bark is the other one that people really like. So you might trade.
And you use
he loves Circle. And so
the other one that you used to use is that
it's called Custodio. Yeah, it's QUSTIDO. And when I was using it, it was new and it was a little clunky. But I actually recommend it because it can be used internationally. So yeah, Circle I don't think can be. So yeah, poke around. I mean, the thing you want is easy to install, easy to use. Yeah, that's a bummer about Circle.
It offers a similar system.
Yeah, cool. Any other sex questions? Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I've got a question, but first I'm going to read Summer's question because she came in before me on the chat. She says she has a question, but her kid is in the room and she doesn't want to spoil anything for him. But she said she wants to talk to him tomorrow. If I want to talk to him tomorrow, do I just pull him aside and say, hey, so I'm going to tell you where babies come from?
How old is he?
7.
7. No, you don't need to talk to him tomorrow. I would get a book. I would get the book that's It's So Amazing. And then I would say, hey, guess what? You're old enough. We got this great book. Let's read it together. If he has specifically asked you, like, hey, how do babies get in the mama's tummy, like recently, then you can say to him, hey, remember when you asked me that? I'm going to answer it. I'm going to get you a really great book to talk about it. So you're going to kind of punt to the book, because books are a normal part of our family life, right? You read to your kids and it'll be easier on you. And then you don't have to be like the Wikipedia of sex business. And everything in that book is totally age appropriate for a 7-year-old. It's going to feel like a lot, but don't worry about that. It's coming from you, from a really terrific, trustworthy source. The authors, Roby Harris and Michael Emberley, are terrific. And it's better that he have too much information from there than from out there.
Thank you. She
Yeah,
said,
thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
I have a question of my own.
Yes.
In your materials on your resource center, do you talk about menstruation and how to talk to your girls about that?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think I do specifically. I do have some blog posts about that. One thing that I would definitely do for all kids need a book that's just about puberty by the time they're about 8 or 9. Girls 8 for sure, because girls can start their periods as young as 9. There's a book called The Girl's Body Book that I really like. There's The Care and Keeping of You, which has been really popular, but I like The Girl's Body Book because it's a little more just like straightforward. It's not as pink. That's just me, but it's good. Yeah. So, and again, like, books are our friends, right? Books are our friends. And keeping that's a hard one to keep positive, right? You're going to bleed every month for the rest of your life. And then you're going to stop bleeding and it's going to be like reverse puberty and you're going to go crazy. It's awesome. I know of when I speak. Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So I called in because my internet was also not working. So any slides or any part that was visual, I missed.
Oh, shoot.
And I'm just hoping in your follow-up email that I'll be included, even if you couldn't tell I was participating.
Yeah.
That, like, those names of those books, because I couldn't even write them down because I mean, my device, my computer, no internet's working.
Okay.
So I'm hoping they'll just be a little in the follow-up.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, no
I did listen into the whole thing.
Good. Yeah. No, you don't have to remember anything. I'm going to remember a lot for you. So you'll get
Thank you so much.
If you registered, you'll get the emails. And the email is going to go out to your entire school. So everybody will get it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anything else? Looking at the time.
I think we just got to say thank you, Amy.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just super honored to support your school and support your families and support you people. You've totally got this. Start small. Just go look at the books. Just go to my website and look at the bookstore. That's all you need to do. And then maybe buy one or not. Or not. Baby steps, people. Baby
So
steps.
you have links on your website, is that right?
Yeah. Just go to my books page and you'll see there's tons of stuff on my website, tons and tons of stuff. So there's lots of stuff, lots of ways to learn.
Okay.
Lots of ways to learn. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Thank you,
so
Amy.
Yeah. We look forward to having you out here in person when all of that's back.
I know.
We would love that.
Next fall, next November.
Yes.
Let's be together.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Thank you
so much. Have a good night, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.